Hello everyone, I'm Rodney from 3dgameman.com, and today I'm looking at the Phanteks Enthoo Luxe full tower case. Now, the case box looks wonderful, has a picture here of the product on the front and tons of other pictures as well as features and specifications about it. It's packaged very well between two pieces of styrofoam, and there's styrofoam in the middle, plus the case itself is in a plastic bag. On the left side panel, they have protective plastic on both of the windows. They include two LED strips. One is 1 meter long and the other is 2 meters long. And by the way, these are multicolor. Two SSD brackets. Let me open it up and I'll show you what these look like. There you go. They are metal. Have two of those. A pump bracket. A 3-pin Y splitter for the fans, and a fan hub. And here's what's included in the box. You can connect up to 6 3-pin fans, 3 in either side, but there is a 4-pin CPU connection here, and this is the power connection. They include a serial ATA or SATA power lead. This gets connected on this side, like so. This is the 4-pin that gets connected into the fan hub and then into the CPU header on the motherboard. They also include 2 3-pin fan Y splitters here, as well as some Velcro sticky on one side so you can stick it where you want, and a couple of screws plus the installation guide. Now have a closer look at the LED strip. This is the power connection and you can connect it right into the case. There's actually an LED button on the front, which I will show you in just a minute. One side of this, of course, you stick down, and the other side is the LEDs. In the smaller accessory box, they include a user's manual, a couple of Velcro ties, as well as plastic cable ties. This little case, which is nice, has all kinds of screws and bolts in it. And these are water cooling accessories for the pump and tanks, if you want to do water cooling in the case. Now this is a full tower case in every respect. It is large and fairly heavy. Oh, and by the way, not only does it come in this black color, it also is available in white. It measures in at 235 millimeters wide by 560 millimeters high by 550 millimeters deep, and weighs in at 13.9 kilograms. This case is mainly constructed from steel, and that's one of the reasons why it's fairly heavy, but it does have this sand-blasted aluminum front. Looks quite nice. At the very top, if you push here, it will reveal 4 USB ports, 2 USB 3, and 2 USB 2, as well as the audio jacks, headphone, and a microphone reset button. And this is the LED button that will change the colors of the LEDs. There are 3 external 5¼ inch drive bays, and at the bottom there's this nice indented stylish section, and this is to allow the fan or fans to intake cool air. And they have this removable dust filter which you pull out from the front. Now this front panel can be easily removed by pulling at the bottom, but there are some cables attaching it to the case, so don't just rip it off. Just inside the front cover is a removable dust filter, and they include a 200 millimeter intake fan. Now optionally you can install up to 2 120 millimeter fans or up to 2 140 millimeter fans. Plus you can fit a radiator that's up to 240 millimeters. At the top of the case is a quality power button, an activity LED, as well as a big section of mesh here, and you can remove this by pressing at the back, and it comes right off like so. Lots of cooling options here at the top. They do include one 140 millimeter exhaust fan, but you can install 2 more for a total of up to 3 140 millimeter fans. You can also install up to 3 120 millimeter fans. Alternatively, you could put 1 200 millimeter fan in here. Now as for radiator options, well, you can have a radiator that's up to either 360 or 420 millimeters. Oh, and by the way, if you want to, you can take this whole top section right off It just requires removing a few screws. On the left side panel, there are two tinted windows. One is rather large and the other small. But the right side panel is plain. At the back, they include one 140mm exhaust fan, but optionally you can install a 120mm fan. And by the way, these fans can slide up or down just a little bit because notice the slots for them to do that. Optionally, you can install a radiator back here, either a 120 or a 140mm. Here's where the motherboard's I/O shield plate gets installed. They include 8 ventilated expansion slots, extra ventilation. At the bottom is where you install a standard ATX power supply. And by the way, they do have rubber rests for the power supply to lodge on, and as well as a removable dust filter for the power supply's intake fan. Now there are 4 thumb screws, 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top, and they have a rubber washer on each. That's to cut down on vibrations, but also to prevent the thumb screws from scratching the back of the side panels. Now there's tons of space on the inside, and it fits ATX, extended ATX, micro ATX, as well as SSI EEB form factor motherboards. The motherboard tray is not removable. You've got a humongous hole on it though for the cooler's retention plate, plus rubber grommeted holes for routing the cables behind the motherboard tray. And by the way, the cable management behind the motherboard tray is 27mm. So you've got lots of space behind there on the right side of the case to route all the cables. You know, get them out of the inside of the case. Now, as I mentioned before, it comes with 3 5¼ external drive bays, and these have a toolless design. They have their Phanteks logo here, a power supply shroud as well. On that shroud, they have a rubber grommeted hole for routing cables through there if you want to. And this shroud can be easily removed. Now, at the bottom of the case, you've got a number of fan options. You can either install 2 120mm fans or one 140mm fan, but they do not include any fans at the bottom. They have thumb screws on the expansion slots. That's just as good, if not better, than some kind of fancy, you know, expansion slot toolless design. And you can install up to 2 optional 120mm fans on the side of the drive cages. Now, video card length varies from 338 all the way up to 472mm. It depends on whether you have the reservoir bracket installed or you have the hard drive cages installed. Now, as for CPU cooler height, well, that's up to 193mm. With the right side panel removed, you can see that there's lots of stuff going on here. They include these Velcro ties to organize the cables. Again, all these punch outs, large hole on the motherboard tray for the cooler's retention plate. You can fit up to 6 3.5-inch drives or up to 8 2.5-inch drives. 3 gets installed at the top here in this top drive cage, and 3 at the bottom. And by the way, take off a few thumb screws and these come right out. Now, of course, you can install 3.5-inch and 2.5-inch drives on each of these plastic drive rails, which are in the drive cages at the front of the case, but you can install 2 more 2.5-inch drives here. These solid state brackets simply come off like so. Install the drive and then push it right back into place. Now, this is the stock fan hub. Remember, you've got that fancy one if you want to use that one in addition to this one, because of course then you'll be able to add more fans to the system. Same kind of setup here though. You've got the 4-pin coming in on this side, the serial ATA power lead on the other side, and you can connect up to 6 3-pin fans. Now, this is very cool. It comes with LEDs pre-installed along the front and at the top, plus the power button. As well, they include LED strips, and you can change all of these to 10 different colors. So let me do that now. The button for that is at the front. And back to red. I'll cycle through them again. And while I'm doing this, they are all changing, including the power button at the very top. At the bottom there are 6 rather tall feet, and each of these has a piece of rubber on it. These are high enough, by the way, to keep the case up off a soft surface like carpet, because once you load the case down with all the hardware, and if the feet weren't tall enough, what's going to happen is the case is going to sink into that soft surface, and then the fan or fans at the bottom really can't do their job. If you're looking for a full tower case, this would be ideal. Now, it is fairly heavy and it does cost quite a bit, but it comes with so much stuff and it has tons of features. Perfect if you're thinking about getting into hardcore water cooling. Overall, without a doubt, this is a 100% kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.